The world, the realities rather than the poetic fantasy of human life, has a way of trashing our dreams. Promises are swallowed in the darkness of bitterness and self loathing, of betrayal and rage at those whom we thought were on our side, but weren't. We've forgotten the taste of beauty and goodness, and injustice rather than the righteousness of divine promise reigns. So it also must have seemed in first century Palestine. Mary, Joseph, and the whole nativity crew could have been forgiven for thinking the world's gone to hell. The encounters and parables of Jesus a few decades later offer us a disturbing glimpse of that reality. Everywhere, we find the untrammeled power of a few who are content with the suffering of the many, the community devouring itself. Today, it appears that little has changed in the land of Jesus' birth or anywhere else. Hatred is rampant, lives are ravaged, families shattered, making a hideous mockery of all we thought we'd learned in the last 2,000 years. We trade accusations, justifications, we cotton ourselves in distraction and indifference, but the suffering continues, whether or not we are paying attention. God's old promises seem extinguished, nothing more than smoke on the air. We find ourselves alone in the dark. Christina Rossetti is not the only one who has written on the bleakness of midwinter. Heightened awareness, sharpened sensibilities, the very skin that both separates and shelters a body from the world seems to be stretched a little thinner. Winter is a time of changes, some swift and stark, some subtle and hidden, working deep underground as a mystery to the human gaze. Winter is a falling away so that something new can emerge, the season of cocooning, when young, growing things like to hide and undertake their miracles of transformations in private. Winter is a time of gathering gloom and introspection, of feelings cut off from the world and thus intensified by their own craving for privacy. A time of self-absorption, when people put aside the freedom and conviviality of summer to take stock, to look to their own. One feels a sense of urgency and not a little dread ahead of what lies before us. Once flowers and warmth are packed away, and the surfaces of life are laid bare. Winter is the season of darkness. The bright hours grow fewer and fewer. In the earliest days of humankind, each winter might bring the same nagging fear. What if this is the year they disappear altogether and never return? The range of colors grows narrower in the winter. The choice is starker and more exigent. Death draws a little nearer. It is no surprise that many choose this season to let go of life. Today, like Narnia under the rule of the White Witch, it seems sometimes as if our winter never ends. The world seems shrouded in darkness. We feel enclosed by the ice that stops hearts and locks us away from one another, from life itself. Like the ancient peoples, we are watching our days grow ever shorter. At our poorest, lost from God, from ourselves and each other, we cry out ad extremis. We are the seed buried in the frozen earth, hidden, forgotten, and alone. The seed that no longer even recognizes itself. For there, in solitude and unknown to anyone, strange things are happening. Yet it is into this realm of darkness that God came. David, the Israelites, Mary, and Joseph, why should we wonder that God's favor rests on the hidden people? People who wonder and doubt, who sense their aloneness, their utter dependency, who worry that they're not enough. It is to these people that God bestows a secret power, so secret that mostly it's something that only God sees. God, who alone senses the magic unfolding below a surface that to human eyes appears naked and denuded of life. Consider this. Who was more powerless in pre-modern societies than a young woman? Whether noble or humble, slave or free, she is the poorest of all. For her entire life's trajectory is the property of men. What woman in first-century Palestine has the power to take fate into her own hands, to chart a destiny neither guided nor decided by father, brother, husband, son? Highly unlikely, almost impossible to imagine. Yet in one particular instance, that is exactly what happens. God turns the very source of a young woman's vulnerability, her womanhood, into a means of cosmic salvation. My soul magnifies the Lord, Mary cries, for God has done great things for me. Her yes is often portrayed as an act of meek obedience, a means of taming and imprinting the familiar pattern of man orders, woman submits onto this astonishing act, where God smashes the barrier between heaven and earth on behalf of humanity. Instead, God offers Mary a partnership. She's not known as the co-redemptrix for nothing. In the salvation of the world. Here is no timid servant carrying out the command of her Lord. The incarnation of Jesus comes about when Mary herself senses that the season of waiting is at an end. God has whispered to her, now is your time. You're ready. Come forth, break the surface, and dazzle the world. Alone in the dark, all we have left is our humanity, God's great gift. It is the shining jewel at the bottom of the treasure chest that can never be lost or stolen. To refuse the illusions of both greatness and despair, to reject the temptation to sit as judge on one another, and to remember, as David did, that we are all unfinished work. To bask in the radiance of our very being as creatures who are made to love and be loved, and to feel this, to know it, even in the loneliest chambers of our hearts. To suspect, is it ever more than that? A hint, a murmur, that beneath the surface, something wondrous has been happening to us all along. This is where hope dwells. Hope like that which ancient peoples placed in the solstice. One day, our light will return. A light, as we will hear John proclaim on Christmas morning, which shines out in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The birth draws near. In our wintry world, amidst the darkness, atoms are furiously arranging themselves into our salvation. What is required of us? That we're ready. Like midwives, we must be patient, watchful, rich in compassion and fortitude, waiting and working through all the long hours of the night at the side of she who labors. We are all she has, you and I. It's us or nobody. Hold fast to hope. It is the power of our littleness and our reliance on God and each other that makes us strong. Hold fast to that promise, even in the dark.